Hello everyone, welcome to Lifelong Learning in the Arts. I'm Kelly Williams here at the Cleveland Museum of Art. And before we start our program, sorry to interrupt you, Nina, I'm supposed to announce that Colleen has named her baby. And of course we announced his arrival last week. Again, he's 8 pounds and 21 inches. And Colleen and her husband Ron decided to name him Owen. Owen Thurston Jose. That's Ron's last name. So we hope that you are thinking of Colleen. We're sure that you are, and we know that we are here too. But today we have a very special guest who you have all met before. This is Nina Freelander Gibbons, and she is going to continue our program on regional art. And before we start, Nina, tell me how you got interested in this subject matter.
That's a left curve.
Yes,
I didn't know you were going to ask that. That's okay. How did I get... Well, because I've lived in this community, taught at this museum, and been here, it seems, forever. And this art is part of my life, part of our being. We have a collection of our favorites. Doesn't mean that we are master collectors. We are collectors like all of this audience.
Right.
We really are.
Excellent.
So we've been having fun with it.
Excellent.
And I've been involved with it, so it's a natural for me to share.
Great. And we got some really wonderful questions from our audience last time, and we're going to go over some of those questions again because we got some really good, challenging ones and some questions about the May show as well, which Nina has done some really excellent research that so she can answer those for you.
I wanted to be sure that I had all the facts and everything so that I was sharing them correctly. Someone asked about who did the Sailors and Sailors Monument downtown. And there is a gentleman, Captain Levi Schofield, who did that in 1894, and it was erected to commemorate the heroic deeds of the soldiers and sailors of Cuyahoga County who defended the Union in the Civil War. The names of 6,000 of those soldiers are engraved on the marble in the base chamber. Now, if you think we have controversy today about what should go where in public, considerable controversy about the design of it and the location of it. So it finally replaced a statue of Oliver Perry that went elsewhere.
Oh.
The statue of Perry is now in Perrysville. It was even somewhere else before it went to Perrysville.
Oh.
But it was taken away so that the Soldiers and Sailors Monument could be there.
Excellent.
Okay, another question. This is from John Klein. I saw the work in glass made by a woman earlier in the program. Are there any contemporary glass artists? There certainly are. Brent Key Young at the Cleveland Institute of Art is a very well-known, even nationally known glass artist, as is Henry Hallam, who is in Kent. And Henry's work is in such places as the Renwick Gallery in Washington. He's very articulate and very good teacher. And of course, for anyone, there's the Riley Hawk store. It's a commercial gallery, and they bring wonderful, wonderful pieces.
Excellent.
Yep. So let's see. Do you know that we actually have printed the names of the artists? So everyone should be happy on the screen. The other questions, one was about Bill Mcveigh. Bill Mcveigh was a fine sculptor who lived to a fine age and died only in, I think the 90s. And so you could see his work. He wasn't born here. He moved here as a teenager and began teaching at the Cleveland Institute of Art in 1935. Some of the pieces that you can see are a bear in Wade Park, Paul Bunyan relief at Lakeview Terrace, that's at Metropolitan Housing, a terracotta figure of Christ at the Fairmount Presbyterian Church, Jesse Owens, which is a sculptor, a bronze statue in Huntington Park, Hart Crane.
And we have an image of that. I think that's number 3.
Right.
In our last show, so maybe we can just remind our audience about Mr. McVeigh's work.
And then there was Tom Johnson, the other image of Tom Johnson.
That's right.
Which is in front of the Western Reserve Historical Society.
Excellent.
So that's, and the rest of the questions, you're not going to believe, the whole rest of the questions were about the May Show.
Right.
Now, gosh. Why don't we have a May Show? We had a May Show till the early 90s, and it had been going for the years since 1919. And it had been a place, truly, that people could come and find out all that was happening around us by artists in this region. It was a place of true, I mean, it had audiences of 134,000 in some years.
Wow.
Wow, right. But May Show types of presentations, of exhibits, have gone away. And one of the reasons is that they take up so much staff time and so much space, gallery-wise, when you're competing with exhibits that should be coming in, that is one reason. The second reason has to do with something much more conceptual, which is that the museum, and this is articulated in a video that I've just done, Catherine Reed, the museum wants to collaborate with others who are here, like Spaces in the Center for Contemporary Art, and they did that in a show called Urban Evidence. The show was actually in 3 locations, and it was a place that you could, a time when you could gather and go by bus and join forces. But artists truly would like to be best presented in multiples of their work.
Right.
That's the major change in concept. Not just one piece, not just 2 pieces, but to really show their work, you need to give them the space to do that. And
Like in a whole gallery?
That's right.
Right.
And I would say something else, which no one mentioned, which is that the proliferation of fairs and festivals throughout the 80s, 90s, and wherever,
It's very true.
you can go to fairs and festivals and see a lot of artwork around this country. Nothing like the Ann Arbor Fair, it's an old one, but all over the country we have really wonderful fairs and festivals that show fine work that's of that region and really national as well.
Excellent.
So if that's a satisfactory answer, it doesn't take your heart out of the May Show.
Right.
Because we all bought art at the May Show, or we know that it was bought, and it's in our houses.
Right.
So that's what makes it live forever.
Excellent. So we're going to continue today, Nina, and as you said, this is great. We've got some titles. Last time we went quite quickly through a very large period of art, but because we're sort of focusing a little bit more, we've got some titles and some images to show to our audience. What are we going to look at first?
We're going to look at some prints. I thought this was a neat photograph, actually, of a print fair. And it's in the early part of the 30s, I think, this particular one. And we were, at that time, really a center for WPA art. We were. The region was one of the 5 most important graphic art centers. It was led by William Milliken, again, the director of the Museum of Art at that time. Now, print centers here, and you can see some of this WPA art in the Cleveland Public Library collection because they have a lot of it. There is some at Karamu. Organizations like Karamu produced enclaves of graphic artists at this time. And so we had maybe 75 printmakers during that period that people could relate to and know. And what was their work like? Let's see. Do we have some?
Here's one that we have right here.
Right, okay. That is a work, but there were prints of workers, and there were, I'm going to describe just the type of printmaking that they wanted us to be aware of. Hart Crane, that actually is by William Summer, and it's a poster.
Let's bring that one up on the screen.
Yeah.
There we go. We're looking at it now. It looks sort of abstract almost.
Right. Well, he became abstract, and he was a good friend of William Summer. This is Huey Lee Smith.
Let's bring Huey Lee Smith up.
Right. This is Factories on the Cuyahoga. Now, Huey Lee Smith was one of our first African-American artists in this area to get known not only here, and he was a graduate of the Cleveland Institute of Art, but he is nationally recognized. Huey Lee Smith is one, and he's, this is Factories on the Cuyahoga. We have the one by Charles Sallee, which is this portrait.
Let's bring that Charles Sallee portrait up. Oh, it seems to be frozen. Let's take a look at, here we go, here's
Charles Sallee is still living. He's in his 90s.
Wonderful.
And he was another WPA artist.
And this is a woman, do we know who this woman is? She's wearing a beautiful green hat, and she's sitting next to what looks like a geranium.
Well, I could find out, but I don't know.
Oh, that's okay. That was a surprise.
And the Gandy Dancers.
Here's our next
another
picture.
one. Elmer Brown. Elmer Brown is one of our really fine artists of the time, and where you, this I believe is in the collection at the Cleveland Public Library, and there's another one that's coming on the screen, and guess where you can see this? Freedom of Speech mural, which is at the City Club. This is not, this is part of Gandy Dancers.
And, oh, this is the Gandy Dancers as well. We see a gentleman, and there looks like it's a lady sitting on his lap.
Well, let's look at the Gandy Dancer again.
So we'll go back.
Certainly isn't,
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here's a gentleman, and he's dancing with a woman.
Yeah, I think it's from the same work.
Great.
The next one, though, is the Freedom of Speech.
The one at the City Club?
Yes.
Let's
and
bring that one up.
And it has an interesting history.
Right.
It has belonged to the City Club. There was a time at which it was in disrepair, so that it was restored very recently. A part of it was missing and found during that restoration period, and everyone was astounded and very, very pleased. It looks wonderful. So go to the City Club and hear the speeches and see this mural by Elmer Brown.
Now we're looking at one of our audience's favorite artists, and of course that's Victor Schreckengan.
You may remember the show that was here about a year and a half ago, but Victor Schreckengan represents really the wholeness of the Cleveland Schools concept. You talk to him and he says, you know, we had to learn, our students at the Cleveland Institute of Art learn to do everything. They learn to paint, they learn to do sculpture, they learn to do ceramics, they learn to do everything. He's a living example of the mentor for all of that. But Victor's himself, if you remember, was a fourth generation of an artist of potters who were already working in the ceramic industry in Sebring, Ohio. And this is just some of his work relating to tableware. And the designs are, for its time, he graduated from the Institute in 1929, started teaching there in the 30s, and really hasn't ever stopped.
Right.
Now he shares his knowledge with the total community. Upcoming is the Jazz Bowl, which is one of his famous pieces that was commissioned originally by Eleanor Roosevelt. Although when it was commissioned, I don't think he knew who had commissioned it. So this one is at the Cowan Pottery Museum at the Rocky River Library. So you can see some of his work there in ceramics.
And we have another version of the Jazz Bowl here at the museum, right?
Right.
Excellent, because he did...
just got that I think just last year. Now, the other thing that Victor, I'm talking about a Renaissance person here.
Yes.
Look at the toy, pedal toy cars and the wagon. And let me tell you about how he did things. He really tested the viability of every industrial piece that he ever made. But this is made the size of 2 milk jugs so that they could be carried in this wagon. And his bikes, which are coming up, reflect ideas that he had about where the reflectors should be, where the light should be, what the bike should look like. But Victor's designs were the base of design for bicycles. They were no bike before our modern you know, our modern bikes that people have gears on, and so I would say until we have gear bikes, Victor's designs impacted almost every company that made bikes. He was a consultant to Sears, to Huffy, to all of them. So.
And when he made them, wasn't one of his one of the reasons that he also became so famous, he made everything very affordable for just the
whole point
regular family.
That's right. He wanted regular people to be able to use his toys and have fun in them, and I would bet everyone in the audience has something as a child that relates to Victor's work.
Right, whether his pottery or maybe one of his toys. I was watching old family movies a few weeks ago, and my dad was in one of Victor Schreckengan's planes. And I said, well, where is it? This is a collector's piece. And he just had no idea. It was very disappointing.
Oh, my.
But it was such a surprise to see that. I think he really impacted everybody in Cleveland.
He did, because even the tricycles that have the step in the back.
Right, right.
You name it.
He's amazing.
And he did. Major influence and major artist of this region.
Excellent.
In so many different venues. I mean, not venues, but in so many different ways. Crafts, painting, design for industry.
He also did the reliefs at the Cleveland Zoo, didn't he?
He did do some. Yes, he did. But I think Mcveigh also did.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Right.
But yes, you're right. Schreckengan did the ones at the zoo.
Great. And next we're going to be looking at some images from the Cowan Pottery.
All right. We said that Cowan Pottery Museum was at the Rocky River Library, which is where it is. And Cowan, Guy Cowan was a major force in the ceramic industry. I mean, he really was, and the pieces that you see there may look dated to you, but they were innovative for the time. And not only that, he brought people over there like Schreckengan, like Winters, Thelma Winter, like Herman Maetzen, who did some sculpture. He brought them over, and they even collaborated. I mean, they worked on how it should be coated, the slip on the outside of the vase, and it has a different kind from prior to this moment. So he was an experimenter, and they were all working together to make things work.
But they didn't just do vases like this, right?
Oh, not at all. No, they did figures.
Let's look at some figures.
Yeah, like this, and they're very flowing and very terrific figures.
This one is called Dancing Figure.
Yes.
And we also have a pair called Adam and Eve. You see Adam right here and Eve right over here.
They're very symbolic, I would say, literary at times, and yet at other times they're very practical. The one coming up is practical. We think this was a collaboration between Horace Potter and Cowan, with the top being in metal, silver, and of course the ceramic bottom.
And what's this right here? Is that a spoon?
Spoon. Area. I mean, it looks like a jam jar, doesn't it? Okay, so those were experimental times, and it was between 1913 and 1931 that he did that.
Really?
Okay, printmaking again. Here are some of the prints that I was talking about. These are at the library. This is by Kalman Kubani, and he was perhaps the leader in trying to get printmakers together and to experiment in printmaking. Now this may look very, I mean, there we are, Terminal Tower, the Cuyahoga River. It may look traditional to you, and indeed it is in a way, but he was looking at what printmaking is about, how you lay it on the stone, how you design within your medium. And so it's pretty important that we name him. Some of the other library murals, remember this is also by him. So it was important in the time, it seems, for the printmakers. First of all, think about it. The printmaking is less expensive than oil painting. And so for WPA, there was a lot of printmaking. But workers, actually, WPA print covers workers making our bridges, making our buildings, creating and here resting.
Right.
Workers have to rest too, but there's a wonderful series, and so different techniques and many different artists who were supported during WPA doing prints.
Now, let's just remind our audience, because I think we talked about this last time. WPA is the Works Progress
Administration program that extended way beyond artists.
Right.
Artists were just a piece of it, but it was
Right.
one way that unemployed people were given work that was programmed for them and which enhanced our environment. The artists
Right.
did murals, they did these prints, they did sculpture, major sculpture, and WPA was an important supporter. And the reason Cleveland was such a center is that Milliken had a role in making that happen.
Right.
And remember at the Cleveland Public Library, you can see many of the pieces. The mural in the Brett Hall of William Summer, for instance, is from that period.
Oh, excellent.
1934, he made that. And there's one by Ora Coltman, that was a triptych that was just restored, and it's in the fine arts area
Oh, excellent.
at the Cleveland Public Library.
Excellent. And most of the artists that we think of as famous from the 40s and 50s were at some point working for the WPA. For example, Jackson Pollock was a WPA artist. Diego Rivera worked under WPA. So it was a very important time for the country to get out of the Depression and really for some amazing art to be created.
Right, and what I was thinking was also, that I didn't mention, was that I didn't complete that thought about the fact that workers were their subjects was because WPA was about putting people to work.
Right. Great. Excellent.
Well,
We have some design, it looks like, coming up.
well, more than that, we have some important work in metals. This is legacy material. In other words, Frederick Miller, who died in 2000, was a superb silversmith. And it is a time when he starts to make things that are for our homes. And so it's useful as well as aesthetic, as well as whatever. The tradition here, and I'll go into this again with John Pohlmiller, who's still living and among us, because he does jewelry, is at Potter and Mellon.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Down on Carnegie.
Right, and here's some candle holders with gold pallions that were made in 1966, and the other was 1958, so that's the period we're talking about here.
Now, was the other artist that you mentioned, John Paul Miller, is he related
No,
to?
no.
Oh, just a coincidence.
Right,
Oh, excellent.
I found that out.
Oh, you would think, they're both silversmiths and
Well,
sort of a legacy?
well, a lot of Millers. Right.
Yes, it is a common name. This is true.
A woman who broke some barriers in glassmaking was Edris Eckart. And she won many, many awards. She made it happen when she began to see the potential of this medium. Today, we accept glass subjects in glass that are figures, but in those days, glass was glass. Glass you drank out of, or glass.
Right.
But so she really took art glassmaking to its beginnings and limits at that time. But we're going to come across, maybe in the next program, some glassmakers of today who carry that tradition forth. But she's a real legacy. Here's another glass piece by her called Power and Glory.
This is really beautiful. It almost looks like a stained glass window
It
right
does,
here.
doesn't it?
It's really gorgeous.
Beautiful.
It's lovely.
She took advantage of the translucent qualities of glass. And people didn't think of glass as an aesthetic creation, I think.
Right.
Although, think way back to the Renaissance. Think way back to another part of the world, and glassmaking was important. And it's
definitely.
beautiful, beautiful. But it's also usually vessels.
Right. That's very true.
Or containers of some sort.
Utilitarian
Yeah,
instead of
right.
what we think of as pure art.
Right. Well, coming up is some of my favorite. John Paul Miller, I just mentioned him a few minutes ago.
Right.
And he was, all these people taught at the Institute of Art that we've just mentioned. But John Paul Miller was a wonderful teacher, extraordinary craftsman. And I'm going to talk about something that he did, which, you know, nobody would know unless you knew it. Unless I told you, or somebody told you. He was a person of tremendous curiosity. When he exposed to the gold granulation of the Etruscans so long ago, in the Andean cultures, he just had to know the secret. So he learned it, gold granulation. And it's a method by which you make tiny pieces of gold adhere to a gold body without solder.
Oh.
That's how it happens. An art form lost hundreds of years ago. So he was responsible for bringing it back. We don't know enough about that. And these pieces are some of his first pieces in gold granulation. There's a horse coming up. This is a pendant.
This looks like a sea creature to me.
Yeah, it's a
So
pendant. It's
gorgeous.
And it's beautiful. Gorgeous.
And what was that last piece that we were looking at? I think is this a necklace?
Yes, but you know,
I think those are the only pieces we have by here.
right, and I'm calling it a horse here, but do you see that about it?
Is there a horse down here?
Maybe. Okay, so that's
Really
where it
lovely.
is, but it's silver. That is silver. The other's gold and enamel. And the second piece is in the Renwick Gallery.
Wonderful. I think this is a good place to pause.
Okay.
Because we are going to discuss some occurrences after World War II when we come back. Is that right?
Yes.
Great. So please type in any questions or comments you may have about what we've looked at so far. We saw many artists. Victor Schreckengan, one of our favorites. Some of the work that his studio did at Cowan Pottery, where he worked at one point. We looked at some glass artists. We look at different murals and talked about the WPA. So let us know.
Printmaking.
And printmaking as well.
Right.
Let us know any questions or comments you may have. We'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Tell me how I can improve.
Oh, no, you're doing a great job. And you're presenting lots of different things to us. So we'll see you soon.
Good. All right.
Hi everyone, we're back. And again, I'm Kelly Williams here at the Cleveland Museum of Art, and I'm with Nina Freelander Gibbons, who is joining us to tell us a little bit more about the regional artists that have come from Cleveland and some of their accomplishments. And of course, we have many amazing artists that I didn't know about, and I'm sure many of you didn't as well. We got some great questions from Judson. The first question, Nina, is from Flo at Judson Park. And she was a little bit confused about the artist Edris Eckhart. And maybe we can go back to Edris's work. And Edris is a woman, correct?
Yeah, Edris is a woman, and it's E-D-R-I-C-E.
E-D-R-I-C-E, great.
She died maybe only 2 years ago.
Oh.
But she was alive and doing wonderful work for most of this century.
Here is one of her pieces right now, right?
Right.
Great.
There was a big exhibit. Well, it can be seen at Cowan Pottery Museum because she worked there and worked with those artists. She also has pieces that were in a show called Federal Art in Cleveland, and it was at the Cleveland Public Library. She just was an innovator when it came to the medium of glass. She worked in ceramic as well, but when it came to glass making, she was an experimenter.
Great.
So she had an impact on glass making not only here, but elsewhere.
Wonderful. And she doesn't have a sister or an aunt or anything named Eris Eckhart. There's just Edris.
There's just Edris.
Edris. Great. Good question.
Some people pronounce that Idris.
Idris? Oh.
No, but Edris is more like the way she pronounced it.
Okay. Great. We have another question. This one is coming from June. And June and her friends at Judson would like to know a little bit more about that wonderful Elmer Brown mural that we saw that is in the City Club. It's a really gorgeous mural. And Nina, what can you tell us about this piece?
Well, the mural is at its best right now. It's at the end wall in the dining room at the City Club. It is the major piece when you enter the dining room. And it looks beautiful because it was restored along with the City Club, which was restored in the year 2000. So it's a very new restoration, right. And Elmer Brown was interested here in the subject of freedom of speech, which is about what the City Club is about. It's the oldest free speech forum in the country. And so the mural depicts the ideals that are the essence of the City Club mission, like information, like you can see the scroll.
That's right here.
Right, you can see the speaker at the podium here.
Right here.
Right, and so many of the ideals of the City Club informing, educating, and inspiring citizens by presenting significant ideas and opportunities for dialogue in a setting like the City Club, which is a luncheon setting mostly, when people come to speak. And those programs can be heard, meaning the City Club programs can be heard on the radio several times over a weekend or even seen on television.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So the City Club, as I said, is an old institution here, and if people feel like going downtown, they have several programs a week, but the Friday Forum is the one that I'm talking about, that is every week like clockwork.
Right.
Somebody interesting.
Now, it looks like some other things in this mural. We have a man who looks like he's turning a globe right here.
That's right.
Wonderful. And is this somebody, right next to him, it looks like somebody is reading right here.
This is all on the part, all in a way, part of the inspiration that drives it, which is education, information, and those subjects.
Interesting.
Yeah. Elmer Brown was African American and one of the important artists that worked out of Karamu as well. And this was done again in 1942.
1942.
So it's after WPA, even though he did many WPA work.
Right.
Prints and so forth. So by this time, by 42, he was pretty well known for his art.
Great. So tell us what happened after World War II with some of the artists.
Oh, all hell breaks loose.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. After, we've been seeing art that is pretty traditional. In other words, you recognize every part of it, usually. You know what you're seeing. So what happens after World War II? Well, abstraction, although I cannot say that if you look carefully at a William Summer, for instance, that there isn't some abstraction in his later work.
Right.
Or that there wasn't some influence by some earlier abstract artists in the work of some. But the major work is very recognizable. It is very much American scene work, meaning the scenes from our life, country life, our city life, our life. Or, as we saw in the figure of Edris Eckhart, symbolic from literature sometimes. And so that's what we were doing. So when we start looking at what happened afterwards and start looking at the work of Ed Mishkowski or Julian Stanzik,
Right.
or any one of the artists that came around after Milliken left the museum and after the first director of the Cleveland School of Art actually left, so that Joe McCullough became the director, and he's a fine painter, and sent some people to learn about color
Oh, right.
at Yale with Albers. And so those people were forever changed in their approach to color. And then with the abstraction, as part of our major work during the next decade, we changed a lot. And artwork started to, well, and people came not only to teach at the Cleveland Institute of Art, they came to all the schools around us that started having art departments after the war. Think about it. The colleges all had art departments. Well, they all needed faculty. So that many of our artists of today, the artists that have stayed with us came because they were hired to be faculty at Oberlin, Worcester, and you name it. Baldwin Wallace.
Kent has a great art
Kent
program.
has a wonderful program. As a matter of fact, Kent has the only MFA program in the visual arts
That's right.
around here.
That's right.
So it wasn't, after the war, it wasn't only the Cleveland Institute of Art or the Cleveland School of Art, as we've been talking. It was from many different perspectives, and people came to do their artwork, found it a good place to do that, but they also had many different ideas. So
Excellent.
it'll be very different from what we've been looking at.
Right. And our audience gives mixed reviews to abstract art, so it'll be interesting
Oh,
to
I'm
see
sure.
what
I
they-
mean, here's the first thing we're going to look at next week, the Carl Gärtner. And here is maybe the second thing we're going to look at.
Let's pull Joseph McCullough up.
Right. See what I mean?
Oh, look at how different those are.
And he almost talks about the floating sounds of art. And then we have, I think, well, I don't know, but Ed Mishkowski. So there we are with a very different look to our art immediately.
And that piece looks a lot like what we would think of with Joseph Albers or color theory, placing different colors next to each other. Not this one so much, but the Mishkowski piece, which is the one right after it, this one. He's used a lot of what looks like primary colors and then black and white tones to do this very abstract piece.
Right.
And it's
also
really a lovely one.
It's also very geometric.
It is very geometric.
I think later on we're going to see more of his work, meaning Mishkowski, and there is a mural that took place. There's the mural that was on the Halley Brothers building, and the mural in the Cleveland Public Library that's at the right angle of the summer mural.
That's right. This is when you go into the old building of the Cleveland Public Library and you go right into
Brett
through
Hall.
the small lobby into Brett Hall, where they have lots of computer terminals and some research information and lots of librarians there to help you. That would be to the right if we were to look up.
That's right. And if we showed you this one and the one from 1934, which was William Summer, this is called Summer, S-O-M-M-E-R, that's William Summer's son. And he's really emulated the colors in the original Summer piece.
And that is that one called The City in 1834?
Yes.
We have an image of that. We looked at it during our last show, so maybe we can put the two next to each other. It's from our first show, and it's number 9. And I really love these two next to each other because they look just like they complement each other so much. It's a beautiful piece. It looks like an old-fashioned sort of city. You're looking down on it. You can see the horses and carriages.
Well, it's called The City in 1834, so it's meant to be a reflection of what the city looked like then.
Great. I think, well, Dave is going to look for that one. I think it might be 9 or something from the first show, but we'll pull it up in a minute. Now, also, when we come back, and this is a show that we're going to have in the beginning of September, when we bring you back
September 9th.
And our review of what's going on in regional art.
So I have to cover 50 years in
50 years again.
In a half hour.
Oh, you won't have a problem doing that.
No, never.
You are going to share with us some of the organizations that have opened.
Right.
Since
Since
the 70s,
70s really. The 70s, and we get to Spaces and Nova and the Cleveland Area Arts Council and some of the organizations that have driven the development of artwork, Cleveland Public Art.
Right.
It's been a big one.
And Cleveland Public Art is actually one of our project partners. And so they have met, our audience has met some of the employees of Cleveland Public Art.
Lily Curry?
Not Lily Curry, because she was out having a baby.
She had her baby.
Yes.
She and Colleen had their babies.
Yes, exactly. Maybe they can join forces.
Well, they're about a month apart. But Lily, I think, had a little...
I think she had a little girl.
I think so, too.
Yeah. We had Melanie Fiorito, who is a very close friend of mine, and she is the assistant director. She also is the office manager. She wears many hats. But Cleveland Public Art, in case any of you weren't watching the art at Cleveland Public Library.
At the stadium, at the Jacobs Field.
Right. And it's a wonderful organization, but I'm biased because I used to work there. So it's a great place.
It is. I was just at a ball game on Saturday, so I saw all those pieces again.
Oh, great.
Yep.
So we have that to look forward to when you come back and join us again on the 9th. So I think with that, we are going to say goodbye and say, Nina, thank you for coming today.
Well, I always love it and enjoy it. I hope everybody does. And again, we will answer any questions.
That's right. And you're always great about getting back to us with the questions that we don't know right away, but you can give us a good
One
answer.
I didn't discuss. Can I tell about the Quick Pick Club?
Yep. This was from Judson Park, I believe.
Right. And someone asked about the May Show's Quick Pick Club. All right. That's a question for you. Now,
Yes.
I'm turning it right back to you. Anybody who remembers the Quick Pick Club, I did research. I talked to 2 people who ran the May Show. They don't know what it was. And I think that it was the fact that the preview allowed buyers from the year before to come in first. And that might have been a nickname for that group of people that were given that privilege of reviewing what the next year's, art was and of making purchases first. So Quick Pick may have meant get there and do it.
Right.
Because that's the way they were. I worked at the museum during some of the time that the May Show was running, and believe me, there was a line at the door to get in. Oh yeah, to get in to the preview.
Because I remember the May Show from growing up, but I wasn't working here when it was.
Well, I was working here, and it was a time when people came in droves, and they came all dressed up. A way that we don't dress today.
Right.
Hats and gloves.
Let's show a picture of the May Show. That's from our first piece again.
Right. There it is.
There it is. And would they have done the Quick Pick Club even then, do you think?
I don't know, but we think maybe that nickname for the preview may have started way, way back before we even knew it.
Right. And we just got an email from Judson Park, and they said you were exactly right. That's what it was. It's when you could go in early. So good research.
Oh, my gosh.
Good work.
I'm very pleased to know the answer to that because I wasn't sure. Now I'll have to tell the people I called.
Exactly. So that's great. And maybe when we come back again on the 9th, if any of our audience has had experience with the May Show, pieces that they might have purchased or favorite pieces that they remember, they can let us know when we return.
Right. In this image of the May Show,
Let's bring that up.
we think that particular quilt might have been Wendy Von Wiese. If anyone remembers that artist. She was a fine artist, and she was one of the first people to use photography on quilt.
Oh.
But she died very, very young of a cancer that developed, she thought, and she was very brave and talked about it a lot, developed because of all the chemicals that she used in creating this. It was during a time when we were first made aware of the dangers of those chemicals.
Oh, especially doing projects like photo transfer?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's terrible.
So the fact is that we've been looking at this for a little bit for the video I created on Cleveland's Creative Essence, and we think this is Wendy's.
It's a beautiful piece.
Yeah, right.
And we think that this is from maybe 82 or 83.
Something like
or
that.
Or 85.
Which makes it about the time that she would have done it.
Really lovely. And there's a lot of fiber in this compared to some of the earlier May Show images. We talked about that last time, which are mostly paintings or prints or drawings. Just really new media.
But next week we'll be talking about how all that reduces to about 8 different, not as many as before, not as many as in the beginning, different categories.
Oh, great.
From the 50s on.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for joining us,
welcome.
Nina.
Yes,
It's been
I
great,
enjoyed it.
as always. And we will join you again on the 9th of September.
Right.
September.
So 50 years coming up.
50 years coming up. We have quite an undertaking. And we will see all of you on Wednesday when we will join Kate Hoffmeyer, who you have all met and enjoyed before. She's going to be looking at the work of Van Gogh and Gauguin. So I think that'll be a very interesting show. We'll be seeing some of the pieces from our collection and also some pieces from around the world. So join us then. Until then, have a wonderful day. See you on Wednesday.